You know, when I was a little kid, I couldn't be any more than 3. I had this videotape that contained 3 animated films or short films from Disney. The first thing, anything related to Disney I saw was Mickey's Christmas Carol, and that remains one of my favorite animated shorts to this day, even one of my favorite adaptations of Christmas Carol. But what happened after that, what came on after that really, was a recording of Dumbo. That was the first animated Disney movie I ever saw. Like I said, couldn't have been more than 3. Ever since then, that movie has had a special place in my heart. I know it in and out, faults and all. You can call it like racist and sensitive and just of its times, but I'm still gonna love it no matter what. Everything they do right in there, and even more, I just love. So, when rumors came about 5 years ago that they were going to make a remake, a live-action remake of Dumbo, of course I had my doubts. Over time, it was confirmed that Tim Burton would be directing. They would get the same writer who wrote some of the live-action Transformers movies, and the cast certainly grows. So you have Michael Keaton, Danny DeVito, just all those people. So, 5 years after anticipating that news, the movie is finally released. I got to see it technically the night before it's officially released, because I had to. It's my childhood, man. I can't say no to that. Beauty and the Beast, whatever. It's a shot remake, and I hate it. Maleficent, everything they tried to change for their version turned out horribly, and I hate it. So, from my experience with the live-action remakes, Disney has not had a whole lot of luck. So, I have a little friend here who want to hear this firsthand. Dumbo, I'm sorry to say this. You've been with me my whole life, with your story and your brilliant animation even to this day, your memorable songs, just everything I remember to a T. And for a live-action remake to come out, my opinion on it is, it's only okay. It's not good. It's not terrible. It's fine. What do you want me to say? The live-action remake of Dumbo is fine. Ah! Yeah, I'm not even joking about that. This movie was alright. It didn't really do anything to offend me, or just whatever they did to change or include for this movie, it never really had me go, what? I mean, actually, maybe it did, but I do have a spoiler edition when we get to it. I'll let you know what it is, but don't worry. For now, I'm just gonna state my opinions on the movie, on how it holds up, spoiler-free, essentially. And see, if you love the movie as much as I do, I'll see if I can recommend it to you. So, what is the story to this live-action remake exactly? Well, it's Dumbo. What did you expect? Baby elephant is born with huge ears. Immediately, he's ridiculed and judged, but he has some help that, you know, maybe with his disability or whatever, he can use them for benefits. In this case, he has big ears, so he can fly. So that's what he does. It's great. And then, word news gets around about how Dumbo is so amazing, so the circus that owns him, the Danny DeVito circus, are interested in him, and that's kind of where I want to say the second and third act of the movie just kind of falls on that, just what happens through all that. Really, there's nothing that bad with the story. I managed to get through it fine. I will say, though, it is predictable. Whether you think, like, you know, even though the original movie only took an hour to tell and he flies in like the first 5 minutes, at least then you had some unique situations and the animation to boot with that just to coincide with that. Just to be like, okay, you know he's gonna fly, we just want to show off the story first. I guess you can say it's the same thing here with this version, but there were many times where I knew, not just because, you know, they're retelling the story, but in terms of like, when they do something of their own, and where they want the story to go, you know where it's gonna go. There might have been a few points where, okay, I wasn't expecting this, but I wanna say 80% of the time, the story went exactly I knew where it was gonna go. And when there's something unexpected happen, I'm like, oh, okay, this is something here. Just a couple of possibilities pop up on your head, what you think is going to happen afterwards, and chances are the ones that you thought of, they're going to happen. And in terms of what they actually put into the story here for the from the cartoon, I mean, a good chunk of the stuff is there. I mean, I'm going to say this now, you're not going to get any rouseabouts or crows. There aren't even any talking animals in this movie, which, like the 101 Dalmatians remake, I think it benefited greatly from. That would be too distracting, and I'll be just getting Air Buddies vibes from that, so... Just, some changes worked. Like, nothing too great, nothing to be like, oh, this is changing cinema itself. It just works out fine. But like I said, the story is just way too predictable. For a movie like Dumbo, at least. So, the actors portray the characters just fine. Like, Danny DeVito is great, the kids are just portrayed a little bit too bland, but to the point where I don't remember their names, probably not by tomorrow. Actually, I take that back. The girl's name is Millie, and we have a dog named Millie, so Michael Keaton, I mean, we've seen him portray a villain in Spider-Man Homecoming anyway, so... I mean, he does fine here, but nothing can top Vulture going, good old Spider-Man. And the other cast, well, I forget what the... Is it Colin Farrell? I can't remember. And Eva Green. They do fine too. Like, they can do a fine job, but like I said, the characters are just written safe. I think that's going to be a key word for this adaptation. It's safe. It doesn't offend anybody. At least intentionally with race or anything like that. If there's something that offends you, then really you've got nothing to worry about. You're watching a movie with a flying elephant. It technically shouldn't offend you. This version will not, for sure. Oh, and the supporting cast. There's something about the supporting cast, mainly the Danny DeVito trope, like the acts of him, the Rongo, the strong man, and then you got Miss Atlantis, who's like a mermaid, and you got the Indian man who talks like this. It's something like Atlantis, the Lost Empire, where there's something about these characters that I do enjoy watching, but they don't get much screen time, or at least much of a chance to shine. At least in Atlantis, the side characters do get the amount of screen time that they deserve, and they are great. I just feel like these guys in this movie got a lot less screen time, which is a shame, because if you're trying to focus more on the humans, which is fine, I would just loved a few more scenes with them. Just try to get that right balance, so that way you're not completely focused on your 4-star billas, the ones that are going to be on the posters, and of course this little guy. So it is unfortunate, but it doesn't ruin the movie in any shape or form. In terms of how the movie looks, just how it's presented, it's directed by Tim Burton, and okay, I'm not gonna say like it's his most jaw-dropping in a sense, but just like Alice in Wonderland, both how it looks, the cinematography, the CGI, it could be the best part of the movie, just how it looks. And people are saying, oh, the Dumbo flying scenes are actually pretty good. And they are! Just how really they're portrayed. Like I said, it's kind of the same thing that they achieved with Alice in Wonderland like 9-10 years ago. It's basically the same deal. One thing I do like about about this film at least, and like I said, with the changes made, it's not enough to get your blood boiling with rage like Alice in Wonderland did. Oh, I'm sorry, grown-up Alice returns to Underland. If you get that reference, you're alright in my books. But at least with Dumbo, whatever changes they make, it's not insulting. You're basically adapting a children's book from the 1930s, which then got translated into a 60-minute movie in the 40s, so you've really got nothing to lose. And like I said, whatever they have here is just safe. And should I talk about the music? Yeah, I should talk about the music. It's Danny Elfman, obviously, and he does a good job. He's one of my favorite music composers for film. I don't think it's his best work, but when I've been hearing, like, with his score, they're trying to replicate, the original movie score, which, in my opinion, is one of my favorite music soundtracks of all time, obviously, so it's going to be hard to top that soundtrack, but it does fine. I think there were times where, it does replicate, like, the movie and maybe the time period as well, so I've really got no complaints about that. And since we're on the note of seeing if is this film better than the original, I'll say this, like, I don't know what other people are going to say about it, because I love Dumbo so much and I don't think many other people share the same thing. It is what it is. In first thoughts at least, I think that's the best way to put it. Like, the original movie was there, and if you loved it, great. And more people tend to cling towards the mainstream Disney movies that everybody knows, like Beauty and the Beast, Frozen, all that stuff. So the lesser known Disney movies like this one is just, it's there, but if you love it, that's great. So I don't really think you're gonna lose any sleep if you have any doubts about this movie. Like I said, the cartoon I'll always love, and I don't think anything else can top that. And I have to say it for this remake, it is not terrible though. I can at least grant it that. Like, in terms of the live-action Disney remakes that they've done for, like, the last 5-10 years, yada yada yada, this one's fine at what it does. Like, it is in its own way, it captures the spirit of the original cartoon and does its own thing, telling its own story. Like, it is retelling the original story, but it's like, hey, what would happen after that? And that's where the second and third act of the movie comes in, this original story. Like, well, Dumbo has this gift, what is he gonna do with it? It's kind of going on that story without going into too much, but I think I can cap off this spoiler-free section by saying, if you're looking for something that captures the spirit of the original, you'll get it, just not all the way, at least comparing to the others. Like, when it does try to recreate things from the original, it does it fine, but since you know it's coming, you're not that invested. But I could be wrong. I guess it really depends on the person. It's got a 52% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, so I think that pretty much tells you what the movie is going to be. Either you're going to like it or you don't, but you're not going to hate it. Like, it's nearly 2 hours of a movie that you can tell what's going to happen, but it does its job fine. Like, no matter what happens, like, it's a safe movie. I actually glanced over a review before I went in the theater, and it said it's probably the sweetest Tim Burton movie ever made, but it's also the safest. But the sweet part, it's a matter of perspective, but the safest, definitely. It definitely doesn't go beyond the levels of Edward Scissorhands or Beetlejuice, at least in terms of, if it's really going to get really dark. It doesn't. Your kids aren't going to lose any sleep if anything scary shows up. So take that for what it's worth. Like, I enjoyed the movie fine. It's one of the better Disney sequels, even though that's not saying much, so take that for what it's worth. Now I can get on to the spoiler stuff. This is going to be fun. So, the movie takes place in 1919? Didn't the cartoon take place in 1941? The present day? Like, okay, I guess you're trying to say, oh, it's 100 years since this happened. Oh, doesn't that make you feel, oh, and I want to do the research? You know what though? It would have been great if it was during that kind of direction. We would have jump cut to the present day, maybe see Holt's and the kids' grandchildren or something like just being like, oh my god, is that the thing with Dumbo, is it true? And then one of the kids, probably Millie, is probably like, oh yes, Dumbo could fly, you just gotta believe. I'm trying not to swear, I want to make this review as PG as possible, even the spoiler stuff. You get briefly in the opening, Casey Jr., it technically has a face, doesn't talk or sing, but then again, just like the animals, probably worth not needing. I wrote semi-symbolism for the stork. So they say beforehand, like, oh, Mrs. Jumbo is expecting a baby, if you know what I'm saying. That's why she's not leaving. And then a stork shows up in the middle of the night on top of her tent, but it didn't have a bundle. So does that mean, like, it dropped off a bundle that we didn't see, or Mrs. Jumbo just gave birth off screen and no one took care of it? Okay, I'll... And I love it. Humans judged just as judgmental as animals were. At least when Dumbo was first exposed for his... Okay, he's in the haystack when he was born. So he was trying to follow his mother or whatever when she was being towed out of the carriage. He was still covered in hay, and then when he gets the chance to get brushed off, that's when his ears are exposed, and everyone's like, he's a freak! Even Danny DeVito's like, rule number one! When he kept saying that, like, he kept saying rule number one, everything has to be perfect, kept reminding me of Phil from Hercules with his rule number 86, aim! Get your sword! And stuff like that. But again, it happened in the original, so I guess, even though in the book, nobody judged him right away, if you can believe that, but it was in the cartoon, and that's what more people are gonna remember, so I guess... His name was a sign accident. Okay, so he gets into this first act when the circus was introduced. So the elephants, 2 grown elephants, or maybe 3, are coming in, and Dumbo is in like a baby carriage or something. And he gets too excited, I want to be with my mommy! And then he uses his ears to fall off. He exposes his ears because they were having the baby things, and everyone's like, those ears are fake! He's a freak! And then, because Dumbo Jr. or something like that was on the carriage, something happens where the letters just fall apart and it goes off to Dumbo, so it goes that lazy route, but it was all like, hey, his name is Dumbo! But in that same scene, and not even like a minute later, that's when Mrs. Jumbo freaks out to find her baby, obviously, and then we get an asshole who I'm just gonna call Gay Boy Douchebag Senior. Sorry, that's my one. Anyway, he comes in, he's like, hey, you're protecting your little freak of a son? Mrs. Jumbo, okay, she knocks the tent pole over. So they're doing that thing early also. But while nearly everyone managed to get out of the tent fine, the asshole, he gets crushed by debris. So yeah, somebody dies in a Dumbo movie. And you know what, if I didn't stick around for the rest of the movie, if I just walked out then and there, because I promised myself, okay, if somebody dies in a Dumbo movie, oh, I guess my lights are out. I guess I'll have to do this from now on. Ooh, I'm scary. If that happens, that somebody dies in a Dumbo movie, I'm gonna leave, walk out and stuff, but for some reason I didn't. Maybe just because, okay, well, I can't leave that early. If they're gonna pull that route, maybe they just want to do that later on. But yeah, that one guy dies, and the big top falls on both Dumbo and Mrs. Jumbo. And I guess for that reason, she's deemed as a mad elephant, and not only is she locked up, but they send her away, like sold her back again. I'm sorry for this. I don't know why my lights died. So, and we also have the baby mine scene in Midsommar 2. They kind of recreated, and I'm glad they didn't go the route where Mrs. Jumbo is crediting Dumbo with her trunk. I think that just would have jumped the shark a little too much for a live-action adaptation, but it does what it needs to do, and it stops right where it needs to, so I was at least appreciative of that. What else did I write? Okay, so, he immediately gets into the clown act after that, so... And I guess it's like a week or 2 weeks after that where they had time to practice. The kids do. They have time for Dumbo to practice his flying, since they figured out his secret was like, oh, if he's close to a feather, he'll fly. And it's like, okay, so, actually, I've got really no complaints about that. I was trying to think. So it's in this clown act that they kind of go on for a little bit, is when Dumbo shows to the audience he can fly, and Danny DeVito is like, hey, I'm gonna make a profit out of this, hey, oh, and basically in like 30 to 40 minutes at least, it retells the original story of Dumbo. So, even though it didn't reference everything from that movie yet, which I'll get to in a little bit, but the main story, it covered it in the first act, so it's okay. Now from Act 2, that's when Michael Keaton and his obviously evil empire takes wind of Dumbo, and he buys the right to Danny DeVito's circus, and just, yeah, pretty much most of the movie just takes place at this circus for the remainder of the time. So it's just this run of like, oh, his circus is so great and awesome, but there obviously has to be a catch to it. Spoiler alert, there is, but I'll get to that too. So, now for the rest of the movie, it goes on to its original own kind of plot, even though it references stuff here and there from the original movie. Like, oh, you think the pyramid of pachyderms is happening, but no, there's an act where there's a pyramid of women instead. So, pachyderms. I'm just kidding. And yes, you've seen in the trailers too, yeah, there is a scene where women make pink elephants from bubbles, and it's pointless, again, like the original, and it is brief here, but it's at least creative. When it pops up on YouTube, because it is going to be I wouldn't mind watching that scene again at least, because, you know, it was creative enough just to be like, ooh, okay, I want to see if my boy Mechaphone is in there. Maybe he made a brief cameo somewhere, because they got the freaking camo elephant in there. Why not Mechaphone? Disney, and I guess the main act that Dreamland, that's the name of the circus, real creative name, right? The act that they want for Dumbo is to jump off on like this pole platform thing and have Eva Green's character ride on him, and that's making me debate, is that even possible for a baby elephant? Can they carry like a full-grown woman? I guess. Okay. Oh, and Colin Farrell said this at least 3 times in the movie too. He kept calling Dumbo Big D, and all I'm thinking is that, Game Grumps, for the love of God, you're ruining my life. When I say Big D, I mean. So what's next? Oh, and there was a guy. He sounds like the announcer for all those old boxing matches and stuff like that, where he's like, oh, let's get ready to rumble. It must be the same guy, or they got a really good impersonator, but twice in the movie he announces, let's get ready for Dumbo. I'm like, the first time I'm like, okay, sod off. But when he did it the second time, I'm like, okay, it's part of the act, so I'll just let him do his thing. And then they find out, wait a second, in the Nightmare Island thing, there's a giant elephant in there that looks strangely familiar. Dumbo seems acquainted with it. Wait a second, is that Mrs. Jumbo? And Vandermeer, the Michael Keaton guy? He's got him in prison? Oh, he's the bad guy now. And I guess the movie takes the approach that it's suddenly Ocean's 11 now. Unless they break Mrs. Jumbo out by tomorrow night, she's going to be shipped off to where she'll be killed, and her skin and such will be used for ivory or whatever. Insert Simpsons joke where the guy hands Homer an ivory check. So, whatever they achieve, the good guys win and the bad guys expose and all that. It's basically Ocean's 11, but with circus freaks and with elephants and such like that. So this is what I mean when I said that this movie's predictable. I don't need to tell you how this climax goes. Climax. I don't need to tell you, because it goes exactly the way that you know it's gonna go. The only thing I didn't fully understand, maybe they did say it, but like, not only is Mrs. Jumbo being sent off back to the wild, to Africa or whatever she really originally came from, Dumbo goes too. I'm like, okay. This is something that I haven't seen before, but all right. You know what? I'll take it. You know, the book ended with Dumbo going to Hollywood, and it's kind of the same thing in the cartoon as well. So to go with this kind of different route, I'm not mad. In a sense, I'm thinking about it, like, really, they went with that choice, but not in a mad sense, but in the sense that, okay, I kind of get it. And maybe it was Tim Burton. It feels like a Tim Burton ending, because it's like, okay, everything went alright, but Dumbo has to go for some reason. I kind of feel like the same vibe from Edward Scissorhands. Like, okay, it's that kind of ending. It's just sort of bittersweet, I guess. So, everything turns out alright for everyone. The bad guy is defeated, not killed off, thank God. But everybody gets what they want, I guess. And I guess that's all I have to say for spoilers. Like, I wouldn't be surprised from you guys if half the stuff you expect to be the same as spoiler you got, then that's basically the movie in a nutshell. Like I said, the plot you can predict, and I think that's its worst quality. But at least it's not like Alice in Wonderland, where they make the changes where... Ugh, why did you do that? Though the Looking Glass movie is a little entertaining, a little better at least, but that's not saying much again. But yeah, that's all I have to say, guys. If you still want to see the movie, I recommend at least one viewing. If you don't want to see it in theaters, but you still want to see it, I'd say wait until that Disney Plus subscription comes in, if it ever gets on there, obviously. I at least recommend at least one viewing to get it. And if you love it, great. If not, then whatever. You're not going to lose any sleep. So, I guess it's bedtime for Dumbo, and it's bedtime for me. I should point out that I had a few drinks before getting here, so I hope I don't see pink elephants on my ride home.